Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Security guard accused of sexually assaulting 9-year-old girl in police custody. Agriculture sector sees 10% growth in first quarter. And later in sports, Usain Bolt named ambassador for ICC T20 World Cup. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. A security guard attached to King Alarm is now in police custody. The security guard is accused of attempting to sexually assaulting a 9-year-old girl on the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. The details from Kelisha Williams.
The incident reportedly happened on Monday afternoon about 2:15 at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. Speaking with TVJ News Wednesday morning, Director of Security at the UWI Mona, Norman Haywood, says the 9-year-old child was going to a relative on campus when she encountered the guard at the access point near Garden Boulevard.
There is an allegation that he held on to a child and attempted to have sexual intercourse with her. She made an alarm and nearby persons rushed to her assistance and rescued her and he ran. A manhunt was launched for him, which included the Mona Police, the King Alarm Quick Response Team and the campus police. He was later caught by the King Alarm team and handed over to the Mona Police.
In a statement, Managing Director of King Alarm, John Azar, says the company is aware of the disturbing allegation involving one of its officers assigned to the UWI Mona campus. Mr. Azar says upon learning of the allegation, the officer in question was immediately taken to the police for questioning. He says King Alarm will continue to cooperate fully with the police in their investigation. In the meantime, Mr. Haywood says the University of the West Indies Mona says the incident has reinforced the need for the university to conduct frequent assessment of the security personnel.
From a security perspective, we have to be constantly reviewing our initiative. We have to be constantly reviewing our level of supervision and determining the closeness at which persons ought to be supervised, and we have to do a kind of reorientation of all the other guards working on the campus so that they can understand that there is no way that certain behavior will be tolerated.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
The agriculture sector is reporting a 10% growth for the first quarter of 2024. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green made the announcement at today's post-cabinet press briefing. Mr. Green says it's why the government has to assist farmers during this drought period. According to Mr. Green, between January and March this year, 9 million gallons of water was struck to 900 farmers across the island.
Additionally, we have also been working with farmers to be better able to withstand this current drought by making them more resilient. And as such, we've worked with about 45 farmers to develop catchment areas and provide them with pond liners. And that work has helped about 1,000 farmers in enhancing their water management practices and their agricultural sustainability.
And there is more.
Sustainability. Additionally, we've targeted about 6 areas, highly productive zones, that we're building retention, catchment areas. We have earmarked over $8 million to that drive. We have completed one already in Hindstown. We're doing some work in Lucky Pen in St. Mary to ensure that when the rain does come, that our farmers are better able to capture that water and to use that water for their agricultural enterprise.
There is mounting pressure for Speaker of the House of Representatives Juliet Holness to issue a public apology and withdraw a letter of reprimand to former House Speaker Valerie Curtis. Political commentator Lloyd B. Smith says the situation could have been handled differently. He was speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica Wednesday.
On Tuesday, there were high praises for the decades of service former House Clerk Valerie Curtis had given to the public sector. Among the persons lauding Miss Curtis's efforts was House Speaker Juliet Holness. Of note, there was nothing in her statements to say she apologized to Miss Curtis for issuing a letter of reprimand over her handling of reports from the Auditor General's Department. Political commentator Lloyd B. Smith says an apology is critical at this time from Mrs. Holness.
Even in her profuse statement yesterday, the Speaker skillfully avoided outrightly apologizing. Instead, she used a lot of what I would call euphemistic language and, to sweeten the pot, so to speak.
He believes Mrs. Holness's action was not only unfair but unlawful.
Let's not forget now that due process was not followed. In common law, we all know that a person is not guilty until proven so. And there are procedures in the civil service, in the public service, that must be followed when you are going to reprimand or punish an employee. Yeah. And all of that didn't seem to have been done, so it begs the question still.
According to Mr. Smith, Mrs. Holness could have handled the situation differently.
The basic procedure is that you call in the person into your office, you lock the door, no holds barred, and you state whatever your concerns are. She would have responded. If you were not sufficiently satisfied, you would then set about to have a procedure whereby she would have to face some kind of tribunal, which would then determine whether or not there were any grounds for her to be sufficiently so reprimanded. That was not done.
Amoy Harriet, TVJ News.
There's a call for Caribbean countries to take a regional approach to addressing food insecurity in the region. Agriculture Minister in the Cayman Islands, Sohani Ibang, says that his country is seeking to reposition the region's agriculture sector. One strategy is for ministries to work with young people to implement smart technology to enhance agricultural productivity. He was speaking at a recent 4-H meeting in St. Anne.
Business as usual. We must reduce our food import bill and increase domestic production.
He also lauded CARICOM's progress.
While there is still much work to be done, significant progress has already been made. Through our CARICOM, we have witnessed increasing allocations to the agriculture sector and introductions of new crops, improved cross-borders, investments in collaborations, the development and implementation of new agriculture trade policies, and guidelines and identifications agreements on possible insurance products to benefit farmers in the region.
Residents in Comfort District in Clarendon staged a protest demanding for their road to be fixed. But as Amoy Harriet reports, there's a debate among the authorities on who's responsible for carrying out rehabilitation work.
There are only 2 taxis that operate in the community of Comfort District in Clarendon. The others say driving on the roadway is too expensive.
Once upon a time, I usually take 15 minutes to reach our work. Now I have to take 1.5 hours. It can't work. The road them bad. I tell us say patrol them deep.
It's been this way for years, but TVJ News understands that the state of the road worsened after the recent erection of a bridge in the community. That's in addition to laborers frequently transporting building material along the roadway during the construction of the Mapen to Williamsfield leg of Highway 2000. The residents say the current shape of the road does not allow for emergency transportation.
A particular young man lost his life a couple months ago because this road is bad.
We live Bakagad. A Bakagad run as a name, so they're in a business with we.
Nothing at all. If somebody's sick around here, you can't reach up a hospital because you must dead pan your way. Because by the time you reach out pan the main so you need must dead. And if you are go dead.
If a people sick in our community and if you go out there, a dead in dead a pass for no road.
They're calling on their political representatives to intervene. But when contacted, Councillor for the Yorktown Division Anthony Davis said the National Road Operating and Constructing Company Limited, NROC, is responsible for fixing the damaged roads.
It's not in my jurisdiction. I'm the councillor for the area, but it's not a local government responsibility. I'm supporting the demand at NROC to fix the road because they use the road. You understand? They didn't use helicopter to carry any equipment or any material to build that bridge, nor to construct the highway. So they must fix the road.
But Managing Director of NROC, Stephen Edwards, says otherwise.
The damage that the contractor has done to Comfort Road, the contractor has fixed that. The area that the councillor and member of parliament are talking about was not damaged by the contract. In fact, that damage predates the construction of the highway, and he knows that. So the contractor will not be fixing that section of the road there.
It is casting blame at each other. It's left to be seen when or if the road will be fixed. Amoy Harriet, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. General Secretary of the Jamaica Labour Party, Dr. Horace Chang, has sought to explain why changes were made in the party's executive. Dr. Chang says the changes are critical going into the next general election. The details in this report.
At a Jamaica Labour Party meeting on Sunday, General Secretary Dr. Horace Chang announced a number of changes in the party's executive going into the next general election, which is constitutionally due in 2025. The Central Executive voted in favour of Senators Charles Sinclair and Delroy Williams being elected as the new Deputy General Secretaries and Darrell Vaz being appointed as the party's new treasurer. Dr. Chang says the changes are necessary at this time in order to strengthen the party's machinery.
We're at a different stage in government, and we think we require some strategic changes. The party does this periodically, annually, most times when we have an annual meeting in January. We had a local government election in February, so we decided to await that and review it later. The party machinery is the political the party is a political party, and requires to make changes in its leadership and direction from time to time.
Robert Morgan also resigned as a public relations chairman. There have been questions about whether he was asked to do so, but according to Dr. Chang, he was not forced from the post. He says there is no immediate replacement for that post.
The media landscape has changed dramatically in the last few years. The different areas of specialization, social media plays a critical role, but the traditional media continues to play an important, very important role. Much of social media real feed comes from the traditional media. The print media still stands out as a way of certain permanence that the social media doesn't have, and in fact the social media draws from that area. So we have to ensure that our communication is able to reach all media spaces.
Nekinski Robinson, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Total assets held by credit unions in Jamaica reached $180.3 billion in 2023. The Bank of Jamaica, in its annual report, says this represents a 9.2% or $15.2 billion expansion. In 2022, assets in the sector grew by 7.3% or $10.9 billion. The central bank says the asset growth was linked to loans which increased by 12.1% or $13.2 billion, reaching $121.9 billion. In 2022, it was $8.1 billion. The BOJ says with credit unions experiencing a rebound in loan demand in the context of an uptick in loan promotions, loans remain the dominant asset category, accounting for 67.6% of total assets at the end of 2023. The report says the growth in loans last year was influenced by increased salaries for some public sector employees, which resulted in an improvement in their disposable income. Further afield, the U.S. Senate has passed legislation that could lead to a potential ban of the popular video sharing app TikTok. The bill was part of a wide-ranging foreign aid package the Senate approved on Tuesday night. The legislation heads to President Biden's desk. He's expected to sign it. TikTok is owned by Chinese company ByteDance. Lawmakers have long railed against the company, saying it gives the Chinese government potential access to the personal data of millions of Americans. TikTok has threatened to go to court if the president signs the bill. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Kelisha Williams.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report. In this evening's health report, we'll look at teresium.
When they give me the gate for come back, we go in the something the room and then test the pressure, then say gone 200. Me just nervous, just a tremble, so. And then give me one next, then say no, me not go get the operation. And then give me one next date.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Wear polarized sunglasses, wear a wide-brimmed hat, and use eye drops. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Haiti's coalition of criminal gangs has intensified their violent attacks in a move to deter the newly appointed Transitional Presidential Council CPT from taking office. The 9-member CPT has recently been appointed, but the members have so far not been able to be sworn in. This because of continued assaults on the presidential palace by heavily armed gangs that want to take over the facility. However, police special combat units have been resisting. On the international scene, Russian Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov has been arrested and charged with corruption. The minister is suspected of accepting a bribe of 1 million rubles as part of an organized group while performing contracted work for the defense ministry. If convicted, he faces 15 years in prison. And justice officials in Spain have been left red-faced after accidentally releasing a billionaire Dutch drug lord from prison in a bureaucratic mix-up. Karim Bouyakrichan, the alleged leader of the Mokra Mafia, was arrested in Marbella in January after a 5-year money laundering investigation. But he was accidentally released amid confusion over a Dutch extradition request before vanishing this month. Spanish authorities remain confident the alleged cartel chief will be found. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Amoy Harriet.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with O'Shane Masters.